Again, it's not like any of this is my opinion. There are federal forces publicly, illegally federalizing all our local police. They have got them hyped up and trained that we are the enemy. And all over the nation, starting with the airports and fanning out, they are out there basically sexually assaulting the American people. And it doesn't matter how many state reps get groped with their children and introduce legislation in Texas. It doesn't matter how many Congress people get groped and harassed. It doesn't matter. It's about the banking class that has hijacked this nation and controls the security forces, having total control over society. Remember a couple years ago there was a backfire in the parking garage of the Capitol building in D.C., and they ordered all the House and Senate members to leave, and some of the senators weren't walking fast enough and were actually thrown down on the ground and grabbed on by the security forces in their black uniforms with MP5 submachine guns. Always that's the threat in society. In Rome 2,000 years ago, in Venezuela today, in Nigeria, Africa, in the United States. There it is right there. And the type of people they're hiring for those positions now. Just a bunch of wanton thugs who sit around fantasizing, watching all these cop shows where they torture and kill people and are always right. The government is paid off with $500 billion of drug money. A tiny amount of that is used to buy them. The majority is laundered through large globalist banks. And it's all public, and no one gets in trouble. And you tell cops that the government deals the drugs. They go, well, everybody knows that, but still, I'm just doing my job. Doing your job, keeping the prices up of the drugs, train everybody to be a good slave. Your phony drug war, keep prices up. Your phony drug war to pack the 4+ million people in private prisons working for 25 cents an hour, driving down everybody else's wages. If I see one more good old boy on unemployment going, I think it's good they're putting prisoners in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, and they ought to make them work. They got hot tubs and cable TV. No, they don't. Last time I checked, prisons in Texas are phasing out air conditioning. Oh, that's a really good idea in the summer when it's 115 degrees inside without air conditioning. You like 4 million people in prison at any one time, working to drive down your wages and take your job? Are you stupid? And see, my problem is I get in here and I read this news and I look at it and I get so angry because I know it's just going to get worse and worse. You know, folks, I told you more than 13 years ago that the big mega banks, and I listed the 6 mega banks, would implode the world economy in the next 15 years through derivatives and would announce a Bank of the World as the solution that we would pay carbon taxes to. Exactly that's now happened. I told you they'd start making announcements about government developing weaponized airborne flus, mousepox, Ebola, just so they can plausibly deny involvement when it gets released and claim it was an accident. They're now making the announcements about all these airborne weapons they're so concerned about, which means they're edging towards using them. I told you they'd pass laws to secretly arrest citizens and disappear us ahead of staging massive domestic terror attacks. You know, I told you 9/11 was going to happen and they were going to blow up the World Trade Centers and blame it on their asset bin Laden. And then on September 11th, I said that undoubtedly in the next month you're going to see a bio attack in the U.S., but a small one just to prep that fear for the future. Now, how did I know that? A lot of data goes into it. I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot of famous criminology cases where a detective's been tracking a serial killer for a decade, eating, sleeping, drinking it, and they end up staking out certain spots on maps they've created, and dead reckoning actually end up being there when the serial killer dumps another body. I don't know how to, it's all the data, it's all the research, but I know what they're going to do. And I guess in a sick way, that's kind of the good part about it. Because if we don't turn this around, all of you that have served the system are going to be killed by it. And no, I'm not talking about World War III that could kick off with Iran. And I'll have the latest on that when we get back. But Rand Paul, you know, he doesn't want somebody grabbing his genitals, so he's evil. I mean, I guess the new American flag should be a man having his genitals grabbed. I'm sorry, but that's what America is now. Land of the perverts. We're on. You know, yesterday I talked about a little Google search I did. And that concerned Defense Department, live experiment, Disney. And if you search those terms, you will find that Disney World with the Department of Defense since 1996, and they're proud of this. They have press releases on it. Their parks and facilities in Disney USA are lifetime laboratories tracking human behavior and are the model of the future smart cities where everywhere you go, you'll be face scanned and thumbprinted to buy and sell. That model of having a park that's like a prison. You go through security to get in, you go through security to get out, is the model in Fallujah and Iraq and Afghanistan, and is now the model in the United States. But see, you pay to get in. It's so special to get queued up in the big herd lines. And so that's why Disney World is the beta testing ground for the latest on FEMA camp behavioral psychology and mass controlling of populations, and people pay to go be part of it. I told the story on the radio last night. I was over at my parents yesterday afternoon, and I was talking about Disney World. And I said, well, you know the whole thing's a laboratory. I said, the shopping malls are now. Mall of America's hooked in with Department of Defense. That's now been confirmed. We had sources months ago telling us about it. And I said, all of these wars, everything is a laboratory. They call it a laboratory. They call Iraq and Afghanistan laboratories. They call the United States a laboratory. Everything is a laboratory by the scientific, technocratic elite to slowly test and gauge and develop systems. That's why they call it the scientific dictatorship. And I just said, watch this. I said, I'm going to use my little New World Order data tracker phone, and I'm going to type into the NSA search engine that's actually there to track what I'm thinking about, what I'm looking into. So you think it's just one way. You're just getting info from Google and it's showing you some advertising. No, that's only one small part of it. But I said, watch this. I'm going to type in Disney World, Department of Defense, Disney World Laboratory. And it was just white papers, documents, press releases, hundreds of them. And I'd never even seen that information. I just knew it would be because it's all Department of Defense. Eisenhower said we have a technological ruling elite that's taken over, and they control the military-industrial complex. Now, the media will never play, I've played it, the full speech where he says a technocratic elite is now in control of 90% of all research at universities. We are in a scientific dictatorship. He basically goes on to warn everybody. And somebody drops a book or something, you hear a slam in the background, he acts totally scared, like he thinks somebody's about to kill him. And he definitely went off script for that. That was admitted. They had cue cards for him, and he went off script in his farewell address because he had somewhat of a conscience. We now know the Joint Chiefs of Staff had just approached him to stage terror attacks in the U.S., start war with the Soviets. He said no. That they'd recently come to him with a eugenics plan about the sodium fluoride in the water and to reduce population. He discovered the cancer viruses and the vaccines. Kennedy, of course, was later briefed on all this and kind of flipped out. Because back then, you know, they were from an older world. They'd actually been in combat in World War I and World War II. Kennedy, World War II, Eisenhower, tank commander, highly decorated World War I guess in the same unit as MacArthur. But side issue, all of that happening, and they're going, it's a scientific dictatorship. We're going to jack the food and the water and dumb them down, and this is horrible. But see, that's what runs America now. And it's like walking around with people in a trance, and they physically are close to being in a trance, and to see people going about their business like everything's normal and they have no idea that an artificial environment is being constructed and is being set up in our society. Now, let me get into the news. Since we have started with the whole TSA thing, let me finish up with it. Here's New York Daily News, Daily Mail, you name it. Sorry about that. TSA apologizes for strip searching 2 grandmothers at JFK. Guys, type in for everybody watching or listening, TSA denies strip search of grandma. TSA denies strip search of grandma. And then we'll show them the next article months later. Oh, actually, we do strip search you routinely. I mean, they take your clothes off. See, it all starts with answer some questions. Take your jacket off, then your shoes, then your belt. Now I'm going to touch the outside. Now I'm going to go in your pants. Now I'm going to take you behind closed doors. And I told you years ago, now there's the headline, New York Daily News, TSA strip, deny Riles granny. The feds on Saturday flatly denied that an 85-year-old Long Island woman was strip searched at Kennedy Airport, sparking a fresh round of outrage from the already steaming mad granny, Lenore Zimmerman. But then a whole bunch of other women came out, hundreds of them, dozens and dozens in the news, but hundreds total, complained to Congress. And they went, oh, you know what, we are actually strip searching you, but it's for your safety. Again, here they are denying it last week. They were denying it a month before that. But now this week, TSA apologizes for strip searching 2 grandmothers at JFK. Wheelchair-bound Ruth Sherman, 89, was forced to show colostomy bag. And they actually ask you what they are, and a lot of times just pull them out of you. It's like, what is that? That's a colostomy bag. Well, what's a colostomy bag? Well, my intestines are diverted into that, and so that's where I defecate. What's defecation? Literally, that came out in the news. And, of course, urology bags, colostomy bags, they just rip them off. And then reportedly laugh at you. And, of course, they had to settle a lawsuit in Texas. What was it, Midland, where the woman was reportedly very attractive. And they made her pull her shirt off. And then 3 men got around her and asked her for dates while giggling profusely. And, of course, this is what America is. And Americans will turn their daughters, their sons, their wives over to this because the average American likes it. They like it, and don't worry, you're going to get a lot more. Can you imagine once they fully bring this in and your son comes home and is a member of Homeland Security in his black uniform, he's 25, and starts interrogating his parents, because this happens in every authoritarian country, and making sure that they're loyal. And then if the parents argue with them about any issue, politics, life, the 25-year-old son looks at him and says, I wonder if you're loyal, and then gets off on the fear of their parents. Every nobody, control freak, bully, scumbag, piece of larcenous, verminous, viperous trash who couldn't get a job at McDonald's will be lording over you, strutting around on power trips. They already are. Bugging their eyes out at you, strutting around. Just a nation of pathetic, disenfranchised slaves with no future. That's what this country is. And it's all because good people decided, oh, America isn't about freedom. America isn't about liberty. The United States isn't about the people being the boss. No, it's about the government being the boss and tipping your hat, saluting anybody in a black uniform, and all of the curses that comes with it. And you see, when you live in so much denial that you think 51 million or more dead babies since Roe v. Wade, no, those aren't humans. Shut up, Alex. Grow a womb before you even have a comment on that. You know what? See, in a society where people can make excuses for something like that, well, there's going to be excuses for radiation. They're saying DU is good for the troops. They didn't previously, but why not say it's good now? Radiation level goes up from that giant Chernobyl event in Fukushima, Japan. Just raise the level of radiation. Say it's safe. Yeah, cancer rates are between 2,000 3,000 percentage points higher than 50 years ago in the United States, depending on type of cancer. We lead the world in cancer, obesity, diabetes, neurological disorders. The wages of the New World Order and NAFTA and GATT and all of it is death. And see, we haven't even begun the descent. You ever seen a theme park or a science lab version of a black hole? It's that big plastic black funnel or white funnel, and you put a quarter or a penny in it, and it starts rolling slowly around the outside, and then starts going towards the drain, and then goes super fast as it's going down the middle. We've only gone about an inch from the rim. We're not even that far down yet. But as we go around, it goes faster and faster and faster and faster, and 20, 30, 40, 50 million dead, black uniforms, war, buildings, whole cities on fire, mass death, bioweapons. Because that's what psycho demons release. That's what they create. That's their environment. That's what they like. That's what they've done. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people murdered by government in the last century alone. Giant bioweapon labs all across the world publicly producing airborne weaponized garbage that kills 90+% of those that come in contact with it. Stored in level 2 facilities everywhere, just waiting for it to be released. Zoological weapons, GMO, hundreds of species spliced together, injected into human embryos, monkey embryos, GMO dolphins released, every form of hellish bondage you can imagine, just systematic, preparing to be released. All of this is just getting in line. You know, they're trying to train the military and police to kill U.S. citizens and arrest us, and they always say, that's treasonous. I want to see the law. I've talked to the troops on air. I've been to the urban drills. I've videotaped them training for this. And most of them, on average about 80%, it's right about 79% technically, say they won't do it. So now they're coming to them and going, here's NDAA. Here's the law. Train for it. Every ROTC. In the last 20 years I've studied, training to kill U.S. gun owners. They call them militias. Every urban warfare drill in major cities with the Boy Scouts training to rat out their mommy and daddy, and now it's in the New York Times. Every drill training to execute U.S. citizens. Every drill preparing for treason and corruption and out-of-control total evil. 100%. And now, Jack Bauer torturing people's kids, simulated on TV to get the answers on the terrorist. By the way, in that Ron Paul article, do we have the video posted in that? Because it's just a dead screen in here. That's what I was asking earlier. It says flashback, Ron Paul groped by TSA. That video is posted in that? Okay, great. Flashback, Ron Paul groped by TSA. This is about pulling up and being lined up, you and your family, and men putting their hands on your kids and your wife, and you not doing anything about it. So they can forcibly inoculate you. How do I know that? Because it's all in the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act, and it's in all the clergy response documents I got 3 years before it was leaked to the mainstream media. They've trained over 100,000 clergy, last documents we got, to go to FEMA camps, to take injections, and to let the state take your children. Your preacher in your town, in almost every case, is a FEMA minion getting a side paycheck from Homeland Security and is a traitorous, creepy, criminal devil up there looking at you as enemies, and he gets off on going and talking to the military and Homeland Security and FEMA about their flock and writing reports on people that come to get counseling from them. At big churches, most of the counselors are Homeland Security spies. Everywhere, just scum and filth and trash and traitors and infraguard. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we've turned into. A massive army of evil with chicken neck do-gooders serving them in giant armies of hell and devilish worship, absolutely hell-bent on delivering this country and the rest of the world into hell on earth. Man, I'm angry. Yeah! I told you again, you ever seen the thing where you throw the quarter into the black hole simulator and it starts real slow around the edge? And then as it goes around, faster and faster and faster and We're about an inch down from the rim, and the quarter's starting to go quicker. And when it goes down, hell is released. Boom! Boom! Giant black op armies just lined up on battlefield lines who've been beta testing, tracking, studying humanity, shipping the drugs in, shipping the little kids out, publicly, just setting it up, setting it up, setting it up, testing the military, testing the police, finding the operatives that'll follow the orders, lining up hell's army, lining it up, throngs of them, lining them up on the 50-yard line, right against us, looking right into our eyes. And I'm running around saying, ladies and gentlemen, red alert, get ready, warn everybody you can, it's hardcore, it's life and death. And then I've got to have all these idiots send me emails and see news articles, not just in mainstream news, but alternative, going, Jones goes a little too far. You think all these histrionics goes anywhere towards the reality that in congressional hearings, you can type it into YouTube, Rumsfeld grilled on child kidnapping, and they say, well, what about all these kids being grabbed by DynCorp and disappearing in sex slavery? And he says, well, Dr. Chu, what happened with that? Dr. Chu goes, well, that's just, they're allowed to under contract. They were put in the penalty box, for 1 year on those contracts, but no one will get in trouble. And then the Commerce people are like, so no one gets in trouble. And Rumsfeld said no. Just like the federal prosecutor, one of the top federal prosecutors, is going to declare the fifth in Fast and Furious, nothing's going to happen to them. They're going to ship guns into Mexico and ship cocaine and heroin in. And they're going to have drug dealers pushing on your kids. And then your kids are going to get busted by the cops and go work in a private prison, where they're going to be raped and contract hepatitis and HIV and tuberculosis. And then they're going to go work at the restaurant where you eat and cough it on your food and you're going to die from it. The tuberculosis. Hope you enjoy it. Just an example. Just factories of disease, factories of pain, factories of birth defects, factories of cancer, factories of curses and devilishness and implosion and obesity and demonic entities, and just hell's gates open, just valleys of pus and evil pouring out, the curses of the New World Order, the curses of abortion, the curses of serving evil, the curses of all the globalism, all their dark masters, all their dark generals, all their dark magicians, bringing forth hell, bringing forth judgment, bringing forth annihilation. Giant robot armies, giant drone armies, tens of thousands of drones, weaponized, face scanning, coming into U.S. cities, scanning you, murdering you and your family. GPS coordinates for your front door to fire hellfire missiles right up you. Giant brainwashed troop bases with inoculated guinea pigs snorting depleted uranium until hell opens. More murder, more death, more sickness, more filth, always pressing on the filthy, degenerate nerve of power. You see, I can see the evil. I've studied history. And I'm doing everything I can to get us as a society to wake up and repent. And if you're not a Christian, whatever, I'm talking about by repenting, admitting how lazy we've all been and how we've let ourselves put up with corruption and put up with tyranny. And my main job here is, as this tyranny comes in, and it's coming in, that enough people have been warned about who did it, who was behind it, why they did it, that then people will finally listen, and we can do something about this. And I know I get dark, but reality's dark, folks. 51 million aborted babies is big. The globalist spreading disease worldwide on record. And the fact that it's fact and nobody gets in trouble for it. The fact that the ATF doesn't get in trouble for narcotics trafficking along with the FBI and 6 other federal agencies. It's all on record. We broke the stinking news. We just didn't call it Fast and Furious. We didn't know the name of the program 6 years ago. It makes me sick. This isn't about my big radio show and, oh my gosh, 15 million listeners and all this and boy, the ego and everything. I'm somebody who is thinking about this all the time when I'm dreaming, when I'm jogging, when I'm eating dinner, when I'm rocking one of my children to sleep. And I just look in their eyes and their innocence, and there's so much good in the world. There's so much innocence in the world. There's so many good things that we've got to protect, and I'm angry. I'm angry at men out there who are too weak-minded to face the facts because I know I'm right. How much more has got to come true? How much further down this road do we got to get before you wake up? I got the Iran news here. We got a member of the European Union Parliament joining us coming up. I want to play a clip, though, of Rand Paul talking to Pistoli, the head of the TSA, about children being groped. And I've seen clips from Pistoli. I haven't watched this whole clip yet. They were just showing to me during the break, where Pistoli denies they even do it, even though there's thousands of videos of it. I mean, again, they're just scum. They're enemies. They hate you. They hate America. Globalists do hate America. That's why they're totally destroying it and turning it into a joke of absurdist police state. Here's Rand Paul.
Girl from Bowling Green that was on Good Morning America that many people saw, and she was on there with a TSA agent doing an invasive search inside of her clothing, inside of her pants. We had an 8-month-old who's having their diaper inspected. Then we had a 95-year-old who had their diaper taken off and inspected and stayed, I presume, for hours waiting to get.
It's all about humiliation.
When the TSA head Pistole was here, he said, well, we need to do these invasive searches. And he said, well, we may slow down or we may not do them as much. But then he sent me a letter and said, absolutely, that we have to because an 8-year-old in Kandahar exploded a bomb. To me, I think that shows a bit of naivete to think that somehow there's a similarity between an 8-year-old in Kandahar and an 8-year-old in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I mean, the only similarity is their age, and I wouldn't consider
that's enough.
age to be.
No, they're not naive. We're the terrorist. Al-Qaeda, who's gotten on the airplanes and given control of Libya and Syria, they work for the New World Order. And I know Rand knows that. But this whole Homeland Security thing that good old boys think is for the Muslims and all the rest of it that you hate so much, no, it's for you. And it's always been for you. And you wait till they try to start this war with Iran. Iran says if they cut off their oil supply, their oil sales, they're going to block the Straight of Hormuz. Well, Europe's voted to do it. That is the bankers that have hijacked Europe. And so the next few weeks are going to be interesting. There's a very good chance a major war is going to break out, which is exactly what the bankers want. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The news brought to you by hangmansnews.com.